Good morning. Good morning. I am Allison Mata, and I am currently the sole host of Defense Diaries podcast for our afternoon morning sesh from inside the courtroom. And so, I'm trying to decide whether we're going to keep doing this. So definitely like and share so we can see, if it seems to be something that's, interesting, a lot of people will keep doing it. I'm going to warn you now two things actually. One, I've got court in an hour and 25 minutes. So that's how long you have me no matter what. Um, but I no. Okay. Second, my husband, Bob Mata, boots on the ground, told me before I go on, spend 10 minutes looking through his notes because this is really detailed stuff. And he like suggested it 3 times and also suggested that I read an article on tool marking so I have a firmer grip. So I didn't really have time to do that because I pushed this 10 minutes and then I felt like I didn't wanna keep everyone waiting and was worried about my time for court. So, I had, told Dizzy and Mandy, "Hey, Bob suggested I read an article. Can we find, like, some tool markings for idiots that we can go over while you guys look over while we look over Bob's notes and make sure everything there I can read everything, and if I get stumped on something, um, you know, we'll be able to do that." So, I'm gonna start with giving you guys Oh, the see what we got on this tool markings article. Let us all get a little bit of foundation behind us here. Um, and go from there. And then while we're looking at this, I've tried in the past to get articles that were um hmm, this is from the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. We'll start with this, but I don't know if we need um something else, but let me bring this up so we can look at it together. Okay. All right, make this a little smaller, a little bigger, a little over. Whoops, whoops. Okay, I think that's about as big as we can go. Let me see how it looks over here. All right, all right. So again, I want to say hi to everyone. Good afternoon. And again, like I said, don't forget to like and share because got to see, what kind of support we can get for this afternoon thing. Or yeah. All right. So firearm and tool mark discipline. Now we know it's a little different because, this wasn't shot. So let's see if this actually gives us enough just on that to kind of get a little foundation. But firearms and tool mark discipline, and what year is this? Let's see. Do I know? Do I know? No. All right. All right. Let's see what we go. Let's do it anyway. All right. It's versatile. Well-equipped unit offering a number of services. Okay, so this is like their marketing kinda thing, it looks like. But so actually this might suck altogether, guys, because if it's them, because 'cause they're a well-equipped unit offering a number of services that can be useful for investigators. So I don't know that we're gonna get enough, but, um at least it gives us this kind of information. Inside the barrel of handguns and rifles are spiral impressions called rifling. The raised portion of the riflings are known as lands, and the recessed portions are known as grooves. Alright, so we're not gonna have any of these lands and grooves, here. When a weapon is fired, these lands and grooves cut into the bullet, putting spin on it as it travels. Okay, so that's since rifling characteristics, they examine the width, the number. Alright, that's not gonna help us. The second step involves the since a gun will also leave unique markings on cartridge casings, cases left at the scene can link to a suspect's weapon. Photographs, split screen a comparison to show the different types of marking left on cases that firearm examiners can use. All right, so we're not going to have a pin impression. All right. Um, Again, we're not going to have any breech face marks. These are marks that come from the area surrounding the firing pin of the gun after the cartridge power is ignited. That didn't happen here. Extractor marks after a semi automatic pistol has been fired. Again, not going to happen here. All right. So none of these tool marks are going to be at issue here. All right. All right. So let's stop this and just get to the notes. And let's see, do we have any people in here who are really gun handy, know some of these things that can kind of, help us all? Um, I'm going to see what you guys say. Right. KT says, well, Bob, we tried. Sorry. I don't know that I tried as hard as I could have, but timing was an issue. Timing was definitely an issue. TB Leatherworks, he knows a lot about guns. Oh, wait. Okay. So, whatever clever says since the cartridge was ejected, it will have ejector tool marks. Let me go back to our little article. I'm assuming that, okay. All right. Extractor marks, is that the same as what you're saying? Because this says after a semi-automatic pistol has fired. No, that's not what he's talking about. All right. We will have ejector tool marks. Let's see. Um, all right. Okay. What are ejector marks? Ejector marks are tool marks left on a cartridge case by the ejector, a part of the firearm's mechanism that ejects cartridges. Ejector marks are usually found on the head of the cartridge case, near or at the rim. As the sides of a firearm moves near the end, the case makes contact with the ejector, causing it to flip out of the side. This leaves a small mark on the bottom left of the case. Ejector marks can be used to identify a firearm, cartridge casings left at the scene, unfired ammunition. Sorry, guys. I didn't want to turn completely off my notifications because a lot of you will text me during the show something important that I'm forgetting or missing or need to look at. So, um, so I didn't do that. All right, let's see. They didn't match the ejector marks, says DB. All right, people. So let's just get right um, into Bob's notes, and we'll see exactly what they're saying. And I'm going to apologize in advance for not following my husband's directions because he wouldn't say I needed to review his notes if he didn't think I really actually needed to review them before we went on. but here we go. All right. So they started with an operations data analyst from ISP, forensic firearms examiner. And this looks like a Messer Oberg, but either way, it's a firearms expert. Okay. Um, she goes through her CV. I don't think that we need to worry about that right now. Um, all right. So tool marks, impressed or striated. Typically with bullets, you see an impression, parts of the cartridge, a single unit of ammunition. So, and I'll share this picture uh, that Bob made here. All right, so there you see it. He says it's a cartridge case, the primer slash softer than head. The primer softer than the head. So the primer is the little circle, and the head of the cartridge is the outside. That's man, he's you wouldn't even imagine what my little gun would look like. I mean, you saw that weird thing that I drew the other day, but so there's a slide and a frame. You've got a magazine, lifts, a breech face, and an extractor. All right. So those are the parts of a cartridge and parts of a gun, a semi-automatic. Tools in firearm are harder. A chamber face is U-shaped. All right, so then they get into cycling of a cartridge. In a magazine, once the slide is pulled back, the cartridge will be moved into the chamber. Extractor, so I guess they're the same, or ejector are in the rear of the chamber. The extractor is like a tiny claw that grips it. All right, cycling in two ways. Close slide, insert the magazine, release the slide. There's no cartridge. Cartridge enters the chamber, but then he also has there's no cartridge in the chamber. Um, okay. You've got general and or measurable features that are pre-designed. The result from design factors cannot exclude on class characteristics and help narrow down. So he used an example like you're in a car lot, you're looking for a sedan. You can eliminate trucks and SUVs. So that's kind of the way that they put that. Now just remember, guys, I'm over here reading, so I can't see the chat. I can see part of our screen where if a comment gets put up, I can look over, and then um, Mandy and Dizzy know how to contact me. Um, sorry, friend of mine just sent me an article. I thought it was maybe about this and something I needed to know, but it's not. Um, so subclass characteristics, and and this is something that he notes is more restrictive than the class. Okay, so subclass, you're getting down into it. Don't give you the ability to exclude, but help narrow down. These are not predetermined by the manufacturer. Instead, these occur during the manufacturing process. And then talked about individual characteristics, marks or features produced by the random imperfections or irregularities of a tool's surface. These can be im- imparted inside a firearm or imprinted, I bet you this says, inside a firearm due to use, abuse, or corrosion. I think it's saying that this can be moved around or changed, impartial, maybe imparted, whatever. It can change, is what it sounds like, due to use, abuse, and corrosion. Now, I remember from Bob's Live that one of the defense attorneys made a sort of brought this issue up by asking, well, it's been 5 years. You don't know what kind of damage or use has been to the gun in those 5 years. So I assumed that that was going to play into partially their ability to, uh, interpret the tool markings. It can also occur in two ways during the manufacturing process, typically during the finishing process or by use, abuse, or corrosion inside the firearm. All right. So, because he did that little arrow up. Consecutively made. Can examiners discern mhm, between, aha, between, okay, so this is how they can discern between. And then he talks about a 10 barrel test, a black box test, and overall statistics, maybe, or states. Um, and then he's got 1.5 false positive, 1.87 false negative. So he'll have to go over all this for you. Um, so how they make a determination, their training, the research, manufacturing process, direct observation. They look at the tool itself, indirect observation. They inject casing material into the tool itself. Scope magnification, looking for fine details under magnification. Black box studies. So Bob starred this. You don't receive the actual tool when marking analysis. So that's like what we call black box. It's like information comes in and they spit an answer out, but none of us know what the hell it's really based on. So it's like you've got somebody that says, "Oh, I've got this machine." It will tell you what the what type of gun this bullet came from. All right, stick it in here. Doot, doot, boop, 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 beep, deet, deet, boop, and then it prints out a piece of paper. It came from blah 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 blah. That's your alley example of a black box live and working right here, right now. Um, DB says those stats that I gave are from the Ames 2 study. All right, all right. Um, And that's why we hate black box studies, that's for sure. Examination process. You assess the condition of the evidence. Okay, okay, okay. Shapes and marks, lands and grooves. Now, somebody tell me, am I right when I say there are no lands and grooves in this scenario? Or am I wrong? And I thought it was lands, but whatever. Level two, test the firearm submitted with appropriate ammunition. He's got a star there. Assess items for comparison using a microscope, like watching a movie, start, plot, finish. That might have been her kind of example. The photos themselves do not represent everything an analyst observes. You can't draw conclusions based on level one. Analysis at level two, you get conclusions, identifications, inclusions, exclusions. Exclusions can be based on disagreement of individual characteristics, even if there is agreement in class and subclass characteristics. So then they went in, they put in Exhibit 278, photos taken at the time of the examination, four pieces, packaging, Winchester 40 caliber round, and something referencing chain of custody, which was they had Olahi, who is the um, the officer that testified some time back, Stacy Wisnowski, and then Oberg, who's testifying now. So that's who they claim that it went through. Stacy Wisnowski might could be someone at the lab or someone at, you know, the lockers and another evidence tech. When she received the round, it was unremarkable. No biological, no fibers, nothing. She examined the cartridge in all conditions. The round was in good shape. All right, submission 1, they called this item 6, 1 Winchester 40 caliber Smith& and Wesson. Item 42, so I'm gonna tell you, so items you got evidence item numbers that, like, the officers will give or the lab will give. The lab will have its own item number, but that's different than, obviously, your exhibit number at trial. So this is what the lab had was item oh 06, and that should track through the reports later. It's the Winchester 40 caliber. Item 42 is the gun. She observed 3 ejector marks on the head of the cartridge, 2 closer together, 1 further apart. 3 ejector marks on the head of the cartridge, 2 closer together, 1 further apart. On February 17th, 2017, she received the round and received the Glock? I don't know, maybe he just didn't put the date because I can't imagine that he meant they received the Glock on the same day. Then there was an image comparison under a microscope. Oh, you're about to get a picture now. All right, here we go. Here we go. Oh, I turned myself off instead of shared this. Okay. Here we go, people. This is Bob's artistic display. Let me see. All right, I'm gonna blow it up, I guess. All right. Okay. So, 3 ejector marks on the head, miscellaneous marks on the primer, unknown origin. There's your 2 closer together, and there's your 1 further apart. There's your primer. There's your head. Will be published minus articles. All right, so Bob explained this to me that her report, so he's talking about how there's like this battle between whether the science is even science reliable enough to even be in a courtroom, and then other people saying, "Hell no, this is junk science," essentially. Um, so there were some reports that this expert relied on. When I say reports, like, like, studies, reports of actual studies, not like me pulling up some article and reading it to you, that relied on some of these, studies on other guns, studies trying to prove the science is good. I don't know, the to me, the prosecution might have just opened the door right on back up for Tobin. If they and we'll have to ask Bob how I because at the end of the day, the judge excluded them. She wasn't going to publish the articles with this woman's report, although she was publishing the report. But and we'll have to ask Bob later, and you guys have to remember this and ask him, did the state did this witness say enough times how this science is good, how this science is strong? She recognized that there's, like, some dispute, but said it's, like, the more that she did that about the debate and that all these articles that she read and all this stuff that she knows that proves that this science is reliable science, that's what at least I call opening the motherfucking door. So I think Tobin should be allowed on after this. But what do I know? And I wasn't there. So maybe she didn't really get into it as much as she should. But to make a record of all things important, the defense should most assuredly make the argument that they open the door, ask again to allow Tobin to testify. Um, and DB says there's a debate on whether or not the AFTE, the firearms, and I forget what it stands for, but something like that, theory of matching is junk science or not. This is not the AFTE theory of matching. This is something different that the AFTE doesn't normally do. There's a debate on whether or not theory on matching. This is not their theory on matching. All right. Maybe other people know what that means, but I don't know. right, I don't see any super stickers with information, and I can't go through all your comments right now, so gonna remove this. All right. So the extractor marks underneath the rim of the cartridge. Magazine lit marks. Possible pink arrows. I don't know, guys. So compared it to the Glock first, extractor marks are different. Okay, that tracks with what somebody just said here. They did not rely on the extractor marks. Two additional submissions. All right, now we got some more dates. 2/27/17. Oh, I bet you that might have been someone else's someone else's gun, right? Earlier where it says there was a Glock that was submitted on back in February. All right, so maybe that's what we're doing here because now we've got a February 27th Smith& and Wesson model, semi-automatic pistol that was given. They labeled that 90 on 2/28/17, 101, a Sig Sauer model 239 40 caliber Smith& and Wesson semi-automatic. Um, so the 90, that first one, so the Smith& and Wesson model M&D, okay, was different class characteristics, no significant agreements. 101, similar class characteristics, did not carry over to subclass characteristics. So test cycled and test fired all weapons. There was an item 106, a cycled cartridge. Firing process creates a lot more pressure, therefore it creates a lot more marks. So that's the cycling versus the firing. Cycling, it says loaded into chamber, same hole, same way when cycled as fired, just less pressure. So that's them saying, "Hmm, I feel like that right there could also just open up the door. I don't know everything this other guy was going to say though. She received guns in the water. That was another submission, a submission 3. It had gunk and rust and were seized. 4 firearms, 4 unknown items, 40 caliber, spring I don't know if that's saying Springfield, like they sent it to Springfield or I don't know, and 3 other firearms, um, on August 23rd of 22. Alright, so there's a bunch of other items that are entered, different another Sig Sauer Model 4P 226, 1 Winchester, a Blazer, 2 magazines, cartridges. Alright, and then he's got here, there was a 40 caliber Winchester, not exhibits 280 and 281, and it says, "No objection admitted." But he kinda wrote it in a way that made me think he thought that was important. Alright, now we get to things collected during the search of Richard Allen's house. Exhibits 276, and then I think all this, the 282, 280, and 281, which was the 40 caliber Winchester and some magazines. Received 5.5 years after receipt of the round that was, at the scene. They did the 10,000 round test, the longevity test. The concept is to fire the weapon 10,000 times to test how much loss of characteristics. So I guess how much is it changing when it gets fired 10,000 times? And thank you, DB. Springfield is a gun brand. All right, guys. So I am as like super not a gun person. Like not like no one in my family ever owned a gun. Um like in my family growing up. So then the Sig Sauer, noting nothing apparently Dizzy Mandy got anything there? Page 10. Nothing, apparently something. An orange substance contained inside the chamber, potentially a lubricant uh, from a certain brand of rounds. All right, something orange on the inside. Comparison microscope not to be used for comparison examinations. They are used for memory of the examiner. Hmm, okay. Purpose of showing the photos is not shown purpose of showing photos is not to show an examiner in court. That would be inappropriate. All right, then they said that the case number changed. Same case, 17K, 19K, and Rosie objected. Case number changed. I don't know. All right, so here's her results. She was able to identify that the round had been cycled through the weapon. Areas of agreement, the image, ejector marks. Now, this does say looking at the edge of the ejector, and they put on 3 images. Magnification level 60, exhibit 148. It says hairline ejector marks. The ejector itself, subclass potentially. So, and it had class characteristics, and then subclass it was potentially. Ejector was ground. It's a grinding process. Examiner. This says could make a comparison without grinding. Articles support her conclusion. So that's going to be those articles that they're not letting in, but there's articles that support her conclusion. Examine another tool. Mark found on the head stamp. There is an area on the barrel of the weapon that could make this mark, front of the chamber, fall off fall out of the barrel. Front of the chamber, fall out of the barrel, fall of the barrel. There is an area on the barrel of the weapon that could make this mark that's in the front. And then chamber face has this U shape that comes into contact with the head of the cartridge. The chamber face is made in a milling fashion. Chamber face comes to a point. This can result in class characteristics. The milling process, 9 millimeter, could be similar. 2 cuts that are not consecutive. The barrels are not consecutively cut. Consecutively made items could show more relatable, or I guess if they're consecutively made, they could more look the same is what I think that's saying. There was 2 cutting heads, a 6 PNC milling matches. Oh, no, machines. 6 CNC milling machines, 2 heads apiece, 12 cutting machines. Marks can result in individual characteristics. So that's what they're saying for that. But there could be potential for less subclassifications. Photo area, the rim of the head. They did a photo of the extractor firearm mimming process can leave. Is that what we said it was, or milling? I think it's supposed to say milling, but it says mimming, but can leave subclass behind. There is a chance that it could leave individual. A chance. Well, that's nice. Milling, yeah, that's what I thought. It's what he wrote the first time. Um, there is a chance that it could leave individual classifications behind. All right, so now we're at so then Rosie does I want to voir dire him, so he asks these questions. Do manufacturers use the same extractors on shotguns as Sig Sauers? Objection relevance overrules. Ruled goes to weight. Okay, so now Bob writes here, starred, look up mimming, and this time it definitely says Mimming, and he also writes milling. So I think this is something different. Um, so we're gonna look it up after this. We're gonna see what we can find. Okay. That was an art. Then there was a second article about the milling. This one clearly says milling process. There was an objection. Examiner sent tools could only observe extractor marks. Okay, so this is, I think, also going to what I mentioned to you early. Milling. Are you looking at where at the very top of page 13? It definitely says mimming there. Look up mimming, and then below that it says milling. It's an acronym, LOL. Okay. All right, guys, but we're gonna look it up. We're gonna look up the milling process and whatever this mimming is. All right, second article, there was an objection. Then they talked about the examiner sent tools could only observe extractor marks. Now this has got 2 stars. Did you find individual characteristics striation marks? So the good news is there are 2 really big stars here on both sides, on both sides. Bad news is Bob didn't write the answer. So I don't know if it's because, like, he knows the answer and he's trying to get all this written down, but, there you go. Third article, um, repeated study of consecutively made extractors. So think mark that down, Dizzy and Mandy. I'm going to look that up too. Study of consecutively made extractors. Now there was an objection. Overruled goes to weight, not admissibility. Um, were these extractors examined at the same time as what is used? Wait, were these extractors examined the same as what was used in the Sig Sauers? No. So the argument was that was apples and oranges. And again, I think this is where the judge did say none of these articles are getting in. Like you're not getting articles about these other things in. Um, and then were you prepared to show 2 short videos to show how a pistol barrel is manufactured at Sig Sauer? And it says no. Objection to video. Oh, no objection to video being shown. That must be where they broke. Um, so here's what we're gonna do. Um, I'm gonna look up this, and I actually had read some articles early on. I was trying really, really to dig into unspent casing, you know, tool markings. It was very difficult to find something that addressed that. Um, I'm gonna stick up Bob's little picture here for you guys to uh, wrap your minds around. I oh, thanks, guys. While I look to see if there's an article. Oops, let me get off there so you can see without the blue. Okay. See if all right. So I'm gonna read you a comment from Rachel. Um, these are her thoughts. 3 ejector marks means that the bullet has been loaded and unloaded, unfired 3 times. And if there are marks on the primer, it has been attempted to be fired with indentation, malfunctioning firearm. So she's saying that that could indicate a malfunctioning firearm, and I guess we'll have to see, did they test Richard Allen's gun to see if it malfunctioned? And that might go, um, to one of those things that I'd read in the notes earlier. Um, Let me see, that, that something made it fall out of the front of the gun or something like that, but what's that? Hmm, can't find it. Come back, see, I know that they tested his gun, no malfunctions. Alright, and I know Dizzy or Mandy popped something up. Let me go over here and see what you guys are saying real quick, and thank you, Jen. See, greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Um, does Bob suspect the jury is noticing how biased the Oh, okay. Let me go to that. Let me go to that real quick. Uh, how do I get to that from your Alright, she sent it to me. Okay. Thanks, Mandy. Whoops. Now, does this have milling or mimming? I'll open it up with you guys, but because this thing deals with, uh, 10 consecutively fired 9 millimeters. Let's see if there's milling. No milling, no mimming. What am I looking at this for then? Just generally, like, what this AFTE journal, automated land groove identification system, consecutive fired rifled barrels, criteria for indentation, Daubert, firearm identifications, fired bullets. Let's see if we get, oops, let's just see if we get, no one spent, unfired, no, not fired, no. Okay. Let me know. And this thing's kind of old. It's peer reviewed 2009. Appreciate it, but maybe it might not be. y- All right. So who dis says yes, a misfire or you load. All right. I'm going back over here. Allie, do you think that cross examination of prosecution witnesses is enough to justify summary judgment of acquittal? No. I mean, that it's not the word that we use. It's a directed verdict, but same concept, Jay Ryan, but absolutely positively not in a billion years. Um, are we going to ever get a directed verdict? And I don't think we know enough right now. Um, I don't think that the case is laying any framework for directed verdict. Um, at the end of the state's case, the defense has the ability to say to the judge, Your Honor, they have not proved their case. Even if you take all of this evidence in the best light for the prosecution, there is there's nothing here to establish beyond a reasonable doubt that of the defendant's guilt. So find them basically not guilty without us even having to put on a case, dismiss it right now. Oh yeah, and guys, that's not Bob. So what I do Diz and man, like, when I post, because I don't know for whatever reason when I'm on my computer, I come up as Defense Diary, so I always put in parentheticals like Allie. Um, so if you guys do that, then they'll know it's not Bob. Because they know it's not me. Because at least most people know I when I do it, I say Allie. Truth and transparency. Hi, hi, hi. Quickie. Testimony yesterday confused me because it was said that they took tips on the voice of BG. Only problem, no audio was ever played for the public. Thoughts? Well, wait, wasn't the audio played at least in I mean, you guys know, like, the facts outside of the courtroom way better than me, but I thought at some time in 2019 they played the Down the Hill, uh, right? But, well, I'll circle back once I know more. Let's see. Let me go see what this thing is. Is this I'm assuming this might be Dizzy. Can I even copy this? How do you guys what good is this if people can't, like, click on it and do anything with it? Um, oh, so is this the wiki page? No, forensic. Oh, it might be that's the same article I was reading. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought it was a little old, but I appreciate it. Um, who is the witness on the stand that said it's not unusual to find an unspent round? I was there for that. Or I see it's so I know I've said this before, but how crazy memory is. Like, I honestly am having trouble remembering the days I was there versus the days that I'm reading Bob's notes, but I do remember this, and it was one of the officers. Um, oh, it might have been yesterday, might have been Dan Dolan. I got those notes in front of me. So that's yeah, I think it was. Let's see. And I remember making a comment of why would they let um why didn't they argue outside the scope, I think. Yep, spent a lot of time in the woods, he's familiar with all this, it's not uncommon, so that's Dolan. So he said it I spent a lot of time in the woods, he's familiar with the bridge area. He, he did notice deer blinds in the woods. It's not uncommon to find unspent casing in the woods. It's not uncommon for hunters to carry a handgun, and Smith& and Wessons are very common. Now, for as on top of their shit as the state has been about outside of the scope, I don't know if they let that sneak in on purpose. Again, one of those like, "Oh, give them enough rope to hang themselves" things, but to me, it seems like they fell asleep on that one there. And then somebody put up a comment. Can someone tell me again, milling and miming, is miming something and miming? I don't know if it was miming 1 M or miming 2 M's, but Bob seems to have definitely said 2 different things, milling and okay, so I don't know, I'm assuming this is Mandy. I think only Mandy's here, so it might only be Mandy. All right, one more time, AI overview. Miming, I think, firearms are firearms that are made by someone other than a gunsmith or firearm manufacturer. They are also known as pipe guns, zip guns, or slam guns. So that sounds completely irrelevant from what I'm understanding that to mean. Um, Wiki improvised firearms that made tools by criminals. Okay, so it sounds like that might have been one of the articles she's relying on, which would be completely and totally irrelevant because we don't have any sort of, special made gun here that somebody's making that's gonna have totally be distinguishable from every other gun. So that should have never been even mentioned. I don't even know why they're even letting them say those words. Um, but, it sounds like at the end of the day that, um, they really haven't established the state how this gun would have some imperfections that would actually be individualized, and we're gonna have to see how the cross-examination goes. Um, but that's basically what they've done so far this morning. Uh, Again, I don't think that they're, you know, that these that they've really established how this could be a match, like how she really came to a match. Um, and I'm gonna go read her ultimate opinion again. Again, she did say there was an orange substance contained inside the chamber. I don't know how what's inside the chamber of the gun is really, you know, pertinent, but she was able to identify that the round had been cycled through that weapon. Okay. And then again, the points that she made was the ejector marks, looking at the edge of the ejector. And then there were hairline ejector marks. The ejector itself had some class characteristics and potentially had subclass characteristics. The ejector was ground, the grounding process. Examiners can make a comparison with grinding. And then again, she mentioned all these articles that now that you guys are telling me what miming or miming is, doesn't make any sense why they would rely on anything like that. Like why that would even be mentioned. Or die for the microscope, people said. All right, well, guys have any questions before I mean, I don't know. Let's see, I think I went through all the super stickers. Oh, so I so Kay had asked, and I started to say, "So thank you, Kay. Does Bob suspect the jury is noticing how biased the judge is? If so, have they shown any sort of feelings about that?" It's not anything that Bob really mentioned to me. Um, I wasn't noticing it when I was in there, but I didn't get, like, a day where it seemed like she was really going at it with with the defense. I did hear Bob yesterday saying that he notices Judge Gull will look over at the prosecution when she wants them to object, and then I text him, "Do you notice the jury noticing?" There was something else that he said on his live yesterday that I didn't watch till this morning. I fell asleep watching it last night. Um, that I was like, "Did you notice the judge?" So it's like a note to myself to ask him about later. Thank you, Sheila. And let's see, truth and transparency, but it is clear as day, say down the hill on that. She's going back to her question that she asked earlier that I was asking about. What? Is there something wrong with my sound? Kathy said that I keep cutting out. And that was 10 minutes ago. So, all right. So the bullet, Kate, was found next to the bodies. The bodies were found technically on Ron Logan's. Wait, is that Ron Logan's and not the Weber's property? On Ron Logan's property. It's sort of like in this lower area um so yeah, I mean, if he had never been on I wouldn't expect the killer to be like, "Yeah, I've been on Ron Logan's property," but I'm sure that, Richard Allen said that he wasn't. I've got a question for you guys, and I'd wanna make a poll, except I have no idea how to see or, the results of them. We did one yesterday, and I don't even know where I could have seen the results, but what does everyone think about this thing that was it Holder said that Richard Allen said that, "Doesn't matter, it's over. It doesn't matter, it's over." Twice. I mean, I find that to be very problematic. Now I don't know, maybe on cross exam or maybe during the defense's case, they're gonna establish, like I mean, because he can't testify, right? So, if it was actually said, it's very, um, circumstantially damning, unless it's like, well, you've already you know, Bob and I were talking about it. He said, like, well, because I was like, well, what maybe it was at the end of the search. Like, were they about to be done? You don't need to take me to my wife. It it it's it's done. It's over. Like they were about to be done. And Bob's like, or you've already destroyed my reputation in the entire community because you cordoned this off and then basically telling everybody that that I'm a murderer. So I don't know. My question is if you guys were on the jury, would that be very uh would that be something that you would take note of and think that it implicated him, that it shows that he's guilty? Susan's asking for context. I don't know if it's about what I'm speaking right now, but yesterday, during one of the officers' testimony, Holman's, he said that during the search of Richard Allen's house, he asked Richard Allen if he wanted to sign a waiver about any damage they do to the property, and that he answered, "It's done. Doesn't matter, it's done." And that then he at some point asked, "Where's my wife? Do you guys have her in custody?" Because she had left to go to the bathroom. She couldn't go to the bathroom in her own house. And that he said, I offered to take him to her at her place of business. And that he again said, "Doesn't matter, it's over." Um, and there I'm saying, well, it could have been the end of the search. Now, the other option is Holman's lying. So I don't know if Holman's lying. Couldn't he lie better? Couldn't he make it even more incriminating? So if you're jurors, are those the possibilities that you're thinking? Like, well, you've got to be thinking of this from the juror's perspective. They don't know everything you know, right? But the defense, it sounds like, did make a good, like, uh, back and forth about, well, he had just been insisting he was innocent while it was recorded, when he was being filmed, all of these things. And now you're telling me he's like, oh, it's done. It's over. Doesn't matter. It's over. So again, if you're the jury, is it something you know, that you're thinking about? Is it something that you're holding on to? I think it is. Do I also think that the defense made enough points to kind of put in their minds, might this guy be lying? But again, unless they are followers of court cases and they've heard about the um, Karen Reed trial in the past, okay? And I'm talking before COVID, right? Because I think post COVID, the world has changed. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you are on, you believe the media lies, the government lies, everybody lies, fake news left and right. And I mean, the aisle in life, the aisle in the courtroom, the aisle in the political world. I mean, we've seen it everywhere. So they might be more skeptical these days of police. But again, if I'm back there, I'm thinking, well, lie better, right? If you're going to lie, why not lie better? But I said that to Bob, and he said, well, he can't lie all that hard because the guy was just denying that he, on recording on camera. And I do think it's strange that you're going to search the guy's house who you are now convinced he's the one. He's sitting in the cop car. How is there no camera in there? How is there no phone? How is there no body cam? How are you letting him talk without it being recorded? But again, I'm asking you put yourselves into the seat of the jurors who don't know anything about Holman, don't know, much of the things that we know. Do you think that that is something that they are really taking as strong evidence against Richard Allen that came out yesterday? Where are you, Diz? You out in the watching world and not the trying to see what you guys are saying, but right. So whatever Clever's saying, like, "You think I've done this already?" Right. I mean, those are all definite possibilities. I'm just wondering, I think it could hit with the jury, and then it's gonna come down to them, you know, kinda talking about all the things back in, during deliberations about, well, I mean, he's taking this completely out of context, and we don't even have a video. It could mean um, all these things you guys are throwing out there. Like, Mandy, I don't know if you know how to slow down the chat. People are asking. Right, Spitfire. That's what I was saying. It could have been the end of the search or the end of his good reputation. Right. It's like, it, it's doesn't matter, it's done. Like, it could mean both of those things, and going to see his wife, kinda the same thing. Um, like, "You guys are almost done, she'll be back soon," doesn't matter. Truth and transparency, I believe the jury has seen. They are now all in on wait for the defense mode, which is and was the goal of the defense. Let's hope that's true. That would be what we would want the jurors to be saying. But it's something, it happened, you know, it's the state's case. And Glenn Swartz, thank you very much. Ivy Rose, she read an article on Marx during the Obama administration, Forensic Science in Criminal Courts Ensuring Scientific Validity. Um, I'm gonna try to do some research between now and Bob's live, tonight, and maybe I'll pop on. I was sort of thinking, and you guys will have to let us know, that it made more sense for me to do the afternoon and then let Bob, like, do it himself at night so that I'm not, you know, I don't know, stepping on his toes or, like he was the one in the courtroom, let him do the night and I just do this afternoon. Bob's like, "Wait, I don't want it to be one or the other." you know, but we'll have to see what you guys are thinking. Um, and heavy metal rehab. Correct. You don't have to take me to see Kathy right now. Like, it's over, as in the search. Correct. But that's why it depends. Like, how close are these two things said to each other? Oh, now you want me to sign something you already done, did everything you're going to do. Like, uh, I'm not waiving anything. Like, if it sounds like it was a waiver, right? So if it's like, sign this waiver, but then you can collect something if we did any damage. He's like, no, it's it's done. Doesn't matter. It's done. Like, you guys already. I'm not signing a waiver. But again, I'm just saying, you got to think of it from the jury's perspective, and that is something that could be, uh, you know, taken as strong evidence in some of the jurors' minds. It's definitely headway and points that the state has made. Um, and we'll see what the defense can do with that. I do think the defense's counter uh, started the groundwork for that about did you record them on your phone? Oh, you got the recording though from like your dashboard cam. Oh no, oh your body cam. Oh, your phone. So those are all points. Um, all right, guys. Well, I don't see any other super sticker things. Whatever Clever says, I really like that they allow the jurors to ask questions to the witnesses. It helps so much and also helps us to know what they are thinking about. I agree. This jury is very savvy. They're on top of their game. I was shocked from Bob's Live yesterday that after it was either Liggett or whoever was before Liggett, that the jurors had no questions. That kinda surprised me. Um, but they're they're on top of it, and when they ask questions, I mean, it really lets both sides know kind of what they're thinking and what might change the way they kind of approach things. Um, and PB and Sheila says it also depends on the age of the jurors. Younger people seem to question the police more so than older people who assume police are good always. And I would definitely agree with that, but I am seeing at least people who follow the news or follow politics, especially follow, you know, things happening in courts or, out there in the world with the police that are really, really seeing a lot, and they're starting to change um, their opinion, as far as whether they just trust what a police officer says. So, Bob and I or Bob, one of the 2, will just be back, tonight. He'll give you the full scoop, and definitely if you're watching this and you've got any questions and as you saw yesterday, he's going to still cover the morning, he's just gonna do it faster. Um, so you can ask him those questions for sure, and he'll answer them then. But thanks for all being here. Again, I didn't check to see how many likes there are, but I'm gonna be using the 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 likes to determine whether we should keep doing this afternoon session, our morning, lives with the morning stuff, but that's where we stand. All right, thanks everyone. Bye. Sorry, I wanted to thank Helena first. Um, Thank you for the super sticker. All right. Bye, guys.